So, this is my first report to you as a board, and I've been dealing with a number of issues, and a number of them are very time-sensitive relative to the opening of school and resolving some ongoing issues so that we can move forward with some clarity. So I'm going to focus my report on three areas in that category this evening. The first is the status of special education. As you know, Dr. Ruby was reassigned as special education director last month, and she has been working very hard on this in the same manner that she has addressed early literacy. Based upon the information she has shared with me, it appears that we have more extensive issues in special ed that were previously known or reported. And I feel these fall into three broad categories. The first is that there may, in fact, be further cost overruns for outside placements that were determined in the past school year that were not converted to contracts. And you remember the last issue that I think came to your attention from Dr. Conley was this issue of contracts that were sitting in the special ed office that had not been given to the business office, and as a result were not kind of calculated in the district's liability for the next year. This current issue really deals with IEP decisions for outside placements that have not been converted to contracts yet, so you don't know the price. But it appears to be a significant additional liability in that area. And again, we don't have an exact number for that at this time. The second kind of bucket here is that there appear to be many areas of the, or at least some areas of the special education budget that were reduced where caseloads for 15-16 do not warrant the reduction, or where the caseloads have changed in the interim period of time. And then finally, in a third category, there are several program areas that may be, in fact, be out of compliance or do not reflect best practice or embrace the concept of the least restrictive environment for all children, okay? So within each of these broad areas, there are multiple issues and levels of complexity as individualized as the services and the children who are the recipients and unique as individualized as the children themselves are. Because of this, in complexity as to their cause, how they can be corrected, my impression at this point is these issues are systemic in nature and beyond dealing with them one at a time. So I intend to ask the State Department of Education, Special Education Bureau, to conduct a compliance audit of Norwalk Special Education Services. I'm also exploring contracting with the State Education Resource Center, the SERC, and which has particular expertise in special education, to assist the district and our new special ed director when hired to implement the results and recommendations of this audit. Mr. Spar, I will definitely take you up on your offer and that of the parents in terms of contributing to the database that is considered in the audit, as well as vetting the new special education director. I hope that these actions will take us down the road to a fresh start on firm ground and hopefully a new capacity to provide quality special education services to all our learners. The second issue deals with the unassigned out of attendance area placements. And I know you've had some discussion on this, and there's been some churn and discussion in the community And urban legend has it that there are 300 unassigned 99s out there. Okay, so for someone coming new to the district, this is a real mystery. 99, by the way, is a code in our student information system that identifies students that are not assigned to a school. I'm going to give you a handout that attempts to clarify this situation and what has been done and what will be done. So first of all, it's not 300 students, it's 160 students. And the majority of those students are out of attendance area requests as opposed to the 99s, which are in the South Norwalk or greater South Norwalk neighborhood. The reason why that number is so low in terms of 99 placement is that these are the incoming kindergartners. And the other students have already been placed. So you do not have this large number of students that need to be placed every year to begin with. It's 46 students. The larger number are these out-of-area requests. And you'll note that of the 114, only 35 are new requests. The other 79 are renewals. And the district has followed a process in the past of the parent having to reapply every single year. Now, in my view, that is a process that does not add value. Once a student is accepted, it should be assumed that they will continue at the school unless some change of that is made by a parent who wants to apply elsewhere. So if you look at the bullet points there, I think they embody where we are. Placements are made in designated schools on the basis of available space and budgeted staff, as they should be. The out-of-attendance area renewals will be, at this point and going forward, automatically granted as a practice, so the parent does not have to reapply annually. So that will cut about half of this out in terms of, again, process at central office that does not add value. The new out-of-attendance area requests will be approved by the receiving school principal on the basis of available space and budgeted staff. The new 99 students, South Norwalk placements, I'm pleased to report, have been made and the parents have been notified. Now, there may be a few children who register late or who move into the community later in the summer, and they would have to be dealt with at the time that they move and are available to register. But basically, the deck is cleared on this. Everyone has been placed. And then beginning in the 2016-17 school year, and this is something I would recommend that you be thinking about. It is probably a recommendation I'll be bringing forward to you. It's not necessary that we deal with it at this time. But I don't think that having a policy in which there are a group of families who are assigned to a school by August 15th and don't even have a choice in expressing what school they would like to go to, simply are assigned. I don't think that meets the standard that we want for all of our families. And I would ask you to consider here that beginning in 16-17, that the kindergarten students from the area that has no school be given first preference in the magnet school lottery in March, rather than involuntary assignment by August 15th. This puts the parent in a position of choosing. I think it enhances our magnet programs in their historic traditional role of providing a basis for voluntary desegregation and choice. And I think it frankly treats these families as more as valued clients than the current practice may. But anyway, that's the status of this. I don't anticipate this is going to be a problem whatsoever. I didn't want you to be under the impression that there were these 300 students out there unassigned, because there's not. And I wanted to thank, in particular, Ralph Valenzinzi for his very good work in this area over the summer. Final item in my report deals with the issue of the elementary site coordinators or site directors. And as you know, this has been a contentious issue. It deals with the repercussions of the loss of the Dalio Foundation grant. And it is one that, where we have a need and an obligation to preserve this function to the greatest degree possible in the next school year, utilizing the resources that are available to us, and then build on that. So I want to just take you back to the last piece of information you received on this from Interim Superintendent Connolly, and that was that funding could be found for 10 positions. Dr. Connolly made that recommendation based upon information that the Priority School District grant, which is the kind of the companion piece to the Alliance funding grant, that a portion of it, several $100,000 of it, could be used for this purpose. Now, since that time, the State Department has effected a rescission of 8.5% of the Priority School District grant. So that is no longer possible. That funding is not available as Mr. Connolly thought it would be. I had every reason to feel it would be. In looking at that grant, it is not possible to go into it for this purpose, because to do so without that 8.5% presence would involve the cutting of other positions. And there are a number of actual teaching positions. This is quite unusual in my experience, but there are a number of K-3 teaching positions that are partially or wholly funded on that grant. And you may want to argue that that is really a responsibility of the district going forward. That's something we have to look at in the next budget cycle, because these are fundamental positions. They're not generally positions that would be funded with a Priority School District grant, although some districts do use it or used it in the past when we had half-time kindergarten only required to provide the other half of kindergarten. So that is taking place with that grant, but also extended beyond that, first and second grade teachers. Some of them are funded that way also. So this is, we have essentially 7 positions to work with, and I want to give you a handout that I'd like to take you through that will kind of explain this and what our options are going forward. So the very first page is from our Alliance District grant. And you'll see that there is and this is approved by the State Department at this point. You'll see that there are 7 elementary site directors approved for $905,000, and then the grant specifically calls for a full-time site director for Briggs, and that is the district's contribution to the Commissioner's Network Plan, which is also state-funded. For Briggs. And then you'll see there's another $22,000 in benefits. So if you go to the second page, you'll see the description of how those positions are supposed to be used. And again, this may be a slight variance from the understanding with the Dalio Foundation of how the positions were supposed to be used. But in the Alliance grant, it's for the implementation of New Journeys, which is a literacy program, core knowledge, and more effective implementation of M-class reading, K-3 assessments. And in addition, more effective and consistent supervision of evaluation of teachers in the building. And this is an important point, because I'm going to show you some information in a minute that looks at the number of teachers in each building that have to be evaluated. And this is a state law, and Norwalk was actually a pilot for the SEED evaluation program. So if you look at the very next page, you'll see our Norwalk elementary schools listed. and you'll see the total projected enrollment. And in the very last column on the right, it says total number of NFTs subject to seed. These are the people in each building who have to be evaluated. And this is, goal-setting process, 4 observations, written evaluation. That, in addition to the enrollment of the school, is an important factor because statewide, the standard is between 20 to 25 teachers to 1 administrator for the purpose of affecting the evaluation process well and with fidelity, as was mentioned by Ms. Thompson earlier. Without a proper staffing of a school to do that, the principal simply runs around spending all their time on the evaluation system and cannot run the school and cannot address the other instructional leadership aspects of it. So the two variables here are number of teachers who need to be evaluated and the enrollment of the school. And you can see in some cases, the enrollment of the school is very different from one another, where you have, a low of 317 and a high of almost 600 students. So on the next page is a distribution based upon these 2 factors, which I think is the best that we can do at this point in order to get some stability around this process and complete staffing of the school and the schools and get everyone prepared in their roles for the next school year. So as I mentioned, Briggs will retain its full-time person because that is specified in the grant. I've assigned 1 full-time position to both Jefferson and Kendall, which are the schools with the largest enrollment and the largest number of teachers that have to be evaluated. And then you'll see there are a set of 0.8 schools, Brookside, Cranberry, and Marvin. There are a set of of 0.5 schools, Silvermine, Rowayton, Narragansett, and Fox Run, and then the 2 smallest schools, Wolfpit and Columbus, at 0.2. Now that's about 3 points over what we have to work with, but that is close as I can get in a coherent manner that would allow the sharing of these positions among schools, where you can see that, a 0.2 would be paired with a 0.8, or a 0.5 would be paired with another 0.5. I think that as we go into the next budget cycle for 2016-17, we have to look at a district commitment to full-time assistant principals at Kendall and Jefferson. I think that is a district responsibility to have enough administrative staff there to run a school that size and to be able to evaluate all the teachers involved. It may be possible, we have a situation that may be evolving at the central office, which would allow the consolidation of 2 existing budgeted positions into 1. If that were to occur in the future, I would like to take those resources, repurpose them toward this, and that would cover the 0.3 and allow the 3.8 schools to go to 1.0 full-time, okay? And I'd like to do that with your understanding now, because if that were to develop, it would develop in the next couple of weeks, and we would have to move quickly, because it would change the assignments of people. So that is the best I think we can do with this situation at this time. I hope this brings closure to it, resolves it, gives us a path forward, and will allow for everyone to know what they're doing and recommit to their roles and the good work that these positions are intended to provide for our students. And that would be it, unless the board has some questions on anything that I've discussed tonight.
Any questions? Mr. Barbas?
Stephen, can you give us some order of magnitude on the sped costs?
I'm very reluctant to do that.
Okay.
And the reason I am is there are a set of liabilities that appear to be somewhere in the range of $1 to $2 million. But there are also other students coming back from outside placements that have also not been considered, okay? And those will provide some offset in savings. And there is also a bit of confusion around the extent to which some of these liabilities, which may have involved an existing contract where there are now 2 children, or it was a partial year, now it's a full year, were built in or not to the budget. I do have to tell you, though, that in the future, I think the better way of dealing with these is to have that position for billing of outside contracts in the business office, and for the institutions that provide these services, these outside placements, to bill directly to the business office. I mean, this seems to be a breakdown between what has gone to the special ed department and what has actually gotten to the business office. And again, in my experience, the better practice is to do direct billing right to the business office, so that the CFO always has a handle on what's coming in and what's going out.
And if I can just follow up with that, since Maureen Ruby has given a departure date, and it's, I think it's August 3rd, is another interim director going to be appointed? Is that your thinking? Or? It's
possible. I have been reaching out to people from throughout the state regarding this, and there are a couple of possibilities that may materialize. This is a very hard area to fill. It is, of the areas of durational shortage, it is the greatest in Connecticut. It is the #1 shortage area. I think last year there was something like, of our 167 districts, I think there was something like 16 that were either vacant or filled with interims or temporary people. We have, it may be that we would have to have another internal person serve for a short period of time, but I'm hoping that will be a short period of time. What I do want to avoid, though, through the audit and the CERC work, is having a new director come in and having to spend the first 6 months kind of ferreting out the issues, okay? That should be subject to audit. CERC can provide, has the expertise to provide a plan. What we want the director to do is focus on implementing the plan and doing the things that need to be done, not trying to figure them out. And as many of these issues, you get different versions of a story depending upon who you talk to. But you really need someone with highly developed expertise in this area to simply say, okay, regardless of how it may have been done, this is how it should be done going forward. So possible that we would need another interim. I will let you know that if that is the case. But again, I'm still optimistic at this point, or I am optimistic at this point, that we may be able to attract an outstanding person. They will come from another district. This is a job that requires someone with experience, and not someone who is going into the role for the first time.